Hi everyone, welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. SEIKO have just released a quartz version of their famous Sumo watch. As soon as I saw them release this watch, I had to own one. I was all over it and I bought it straight away. As with most SEIKO watches, there is a lot to like about this watch, but also a few things that we have to discuss during the review. For this review, I thought we'd go old school talking hands. I know it's been a while. After the review, let me know what you think in the comments section down below. And if you enjoy this video, if you hit that subscribe and hit the thumbs up, you can be notified when I do my regular uploads. Let's flip that camera around and dive straight into the review. What you're seeing here is the SEIKO PROSPEX Solar GMT. This is the SBPK001. You can see here it's in the Sumo case. Typically the Sumos come with a mechanical movement in them. This, as we can see by the ticking of the second hand here, is quartz. And what's interesting as well is it's a quartz GMT, and I believe this is the first quartz GMT to be inside of a Sumo case. The overall wearability of the watch, it's very comfortable. Here's a wrist shot. You can see it on my 7.2 inch wrist. The bezel is a little stiff, but it's quite smooth. It's shrouded in the case on this side, so you can only really move it from the top and the bottom. You struggle to get a grip on the side. Slightly concave. The case is really nicely finished. It's got brushing and polishing here, and then we've got that scoop down to the bracelet. This is a green dial version. They also make a blue dial version as well. What's nice about this is it is a traveler's GMT, so if I pull the crown out, quickly move the hour hand back and forth. The GMT hand, you could have it set at your home time zone, and then as you're traveling you could just move this main time zone back and forth. The hands are very nicely finished. The loom is awesome, as you'd expect from a SEIKO watch. Here's a very quick loom shot. The bracelet on here, I've got to admit, when I first saw this bracelet I was not crazy about it. I don't like the look of it. I think it looks a bit dated, quite honestly. I was sure I wasn't going to like it, so I've bought a Crafter Blue aftermarket one, and I might even buy an Uncle SEIKO one as well. After wearing it, it is actually quite comfortable, I have to say. Even though the buckle here is larger, it does fit the back of your wrist quite nicely, and there is 4 levels of micro adjustment on here as well. I've been pleasantly surprised with the feel of the bracelet rather than the look of it, I would say. This is not only quartz, but it's also solar quartz as well. So this is a solar panel, and they've done a really good job of this. I love the green. The blue looks okay, but the green, I like the aluminium bezel on here, the green of the dial, and then you've got 2 different colors of green on the chapter ring. Just love that pop of orange that they've got for the GMT hand. Drilled lug, so you can quickly change the bracelet on here. Let's look at the measurements real quickly. We'll get the calipers out here because it is a larger watch. From lug to lug, I've just got a bit of tape on these. We've got a 52, and then the case dimensions is a smidgen over 45. The thickness on here is just nearly 14, I'd guess we'd say, and it's got a 20mm lug width. So there's a whole host of straps that you can put on this watch. Even though it is a larger watch, SEIKO do a great job of making large watch cases that fit very well, typically because their center of gravity is towards the wrist, so they don't really hang off your wrist. Now let's get to a few things that I don't like about the watch, or I think could be improved. First off, you've probably noticed on some of these close-ups that the QC on this one is all over the place. The chapter ring doesn't line up with the triangle. From my eye, it looks like the triangle at 12 o'clock does line up properly. The bezel is a little tad out, but the chapter ring is way off. We can certainly see it even more pronounced at the 9 o'clock here, and at the 3 o'clock you can see sloppy QC on SEIKO's part. I'm sure I could send it back, but honestly it doesn't bother me that much that I want to go through the effort of sending this all the way back to Japan. The other thing with the overall design of it, this is supposed to be a GMT watch, but it's not that legible for a GMT. As you can see, we've got a 24-hour around the outer of the dial here. It could be a lot clearer. I'm going to say something controversial here, but I think the bezel itself should have been 24 hours. It should have had the 24-hour indication on it, similar to a Rolex GMT watch, and that should have been where the GMT is. I think they've tried to sandwich it in between the indices on the dial, and I just don't think it's that legible, honestly. Your eye isn't drawn to it. You have to stare at the watch for a fraction of a second longer than you would normally to try and adjust to what the position is. I think they certainly could have done a lot more to make the GMT portion of the watch look clearer. I just don't think the legibility is there for its main purpose or the main market for this watch, which is supposed to be a diver's GMT. And maybe at some point there will be an aftermarket bezel that has the 24-hour markings on it. The other thing as well, which I'm not crazy about, is this. I don't mind the clasp. I've seen a few other reviews that they complain about the stamp clasp, and yeah, it could be nicer if it was a mill clasp, of course. But the other thing on this watch is what I consider to be quite a useless diver's extension. Diver's extension on a watch like this, which is, let's be honest, is a very capable dive watch, but I can't imagine that many people are using this over a wetsuit, to be quite honest. There's other watches out there that are specifically made for diving. But regardless, if we flip this little catch back here, let me get it on the camera properly, this is the diver's extension. So you essentially flip that down and you unlock it there, and that gives you a little bit of a diver's extension. A diver's extension to me is most useful when it's a ratcheted clasp. So on a hot day you can notch out the bracelet a little bit more and give yourself a little extra room if your wrist swells in the heat, like Rolex does, like Christopher Ward does, and so on. Whereas this diver's extension, if you notch it, it only has one position. So if you notch it out, this watch, as you've seen from the wrist shots, fits me fine, but with the diver's extension, it's all over the flipping place. It's a totally useless thing. For the 2 times in my life I'm probably going to put a wetsuit on, it's completely useless. It would be much better if it allowed a little bit of slack or it ratcheted out slightly. To me, this is an actual useless thing, and it looks flimsy as well. But anyway, overall, I do like the watch. I've certainly pointed out some things there that do annoy me, but overall, I do really like the watch, so I will be keeping it. It's a little annoyance with the chapter ring, to be quite honest, but I think this is what you come to expect with modern Seikos. We shouldn't accept it, but it's become almost a meme now about Seiko's QC. More importantly, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.